Okay, everyone, so I got in the mail today this Chinese knockoff of the NES Classic. It's got supposedly 500 games in here, and if you've had any of these Chinese knockoffs before, you know it's not truly 500 games. There's going to be a lot of clone games, a lot of games that are exactly the same but a different title on it, maybe some ROM hacks, maybe some games that allow you to jump ahead sub-levels. But I got it because, I do have the NES Classic. You can see here, I got this thanks to a good friend of mine, Frankie. And I actually also have the European one and the Japanese Famicom. But I wanted to get this simply because it was so cheap. Now, these I fortunately got them all at pretty much their retail price. I paid about $60 or so plus shipping on them. This one I got off eBay for $25 free shipping. So another difference is you can see on the cover, they are giving you two controllers versus the one you got with the NES Classic. Now, the Japanese Famicom had two controls built in, but that's a whole nother ball of wax. And to be honest, I'm not really going to give much of a review of the NES Classic at all here. There's a gajillion reviews of the NES Classic Edition already on YouTube and so forth. But I'm going to give a small comparison of when I open it out of the box, how it looks comparably to the two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and open this box here. Now, I'm going to put the camera down because the box, it's actually not too bad of a box. I mean, this is much nicer as far as got a nice gloss finish on it, and it's a nice box. But again, you're talking $25 here, and it's just a paper box, but the graphics looks okay. But the box is a little bit tight to get out, so I'm going to have to put the camera down to remove from the packaging there. Okay, so we're going to go over here. We're going to try and get a little better shot of the box maybe. But you can see here, it's just a slightly larger box than the NES Classic comes in. And the back is just a basic white. Now they shipped this in just basically a paper envelope, and I'm actually quite surprised. I came home today and it was downpouring, almost like monsoon rain, and they shoved this in the mailbox. It just barely fit. See, it's got a little indent here. Those things kind of bug me. They kind of know it's doing that fitting in there, and they damage the box. But again, it's $25, oh well. But we just gonna let this box slide open here slowly. There we go. And here is the console itself. It's got a nice plastic tray. You can see the buttons. We'll take a controller out soon too. But these colors here are a little bit off. Now I heard a lot of people complain about the buttons. They said the controllers were terrible. The buttons to me do not feel that bad. I've absolutely felt worse. They definitely feel more stiff. Like these, the start and select button are definitely a lot more stiff. The rubber grommets under here have got to be a firmer type of rubber, but they do press and they do have a little bit of a tactile feedback. These as well. These also kind of feel a little bit more on the stiff side. The buttons feel, the plastic feels a little bit more flimsy, but again, not bad. Not really that bad. Don't make people say they're horrible, because I don't think that's the case yet. And the control pad also, it's got a good clicky, tactile, not clicky, but there's the rubber grommet. You can tell it's got some feedback to it to know it's been pressed. And the labels seem pretty good. They seem to be all in the right area. A lot of times you get these cheap things that are skewed off. Both of them seem kind of okay. And here's what we're looking for itself, the Classic. So let's take this out of the package here. Now before I do a comparison, let's just get this out of the plastic here. Now the NES Classic, as you know, has HDMI, and that's not going to be the case with this. Also, they used 9-pin Atari-style joystick, so that's some real classic for you. Also, the power button and reset button are reversed. The power button would be here in the NES, and that's reset. But you can hear that. It's not an on-off button. It is a momentary tactile switch, but it's got a good feedback to it, a little bit on the loud side. And you can tell by the sound, it's hopefully hollow inside. You can tell that already. And the power button is here, and that is a on-off switch. So in and out. There's an LED here. Of course, this does not open. It just says Entertainment System on it. It's just a little sticker on it. The reset and power button, if you can see it here, sorry about that, over here, is actually on the plastic itself. It's not a decal. So we're going to turn the unit around. You can see there's nothing on this side here. You got a little rubber feet on the bottom. And then on the back, again, it's composite. So this is your AV out, jack right here, and they didn't use a micro, they used a mini USB for power, which is a little unusual in this day and age because everyone's going to have a cell phone with a micro jack, but they went with a mini jack, and I guess that's okay. And let's pull out my old NES Classic out of the box and do a quick comparison of that. So here we have the Nintendo NES Classic and then the Clone, and it's quite obvious that the manufacturer got their hands on NES Classic and pretty much redid its dimensions because it looks just about exactly the same. The only real difference is, of course, is they put a little indentation here for the decal on theirs, and of course use the Atari 2600 style joystick versus the Wii and the Wii U type of connector here. And it's marked 1 and 2. It's not marked here, but everything else lines up pretty well. Now, since you use the 2600 style joysticks, they're wider, so they had to come out here a little bit and make a little change. But again, you can see the color on the Clone is a little bit darker. You can't really tell too much on the dark gray, but the light gray you can definitely tell. This almost looks like it's been left out in the sun, and you might want to retro bright it. That's the best way I can describe it. But again, if you didn't have them next to each other, you probably would not really know. And of course, even look on the back here, you can see that even the jacks here are identical in their spot, but instead of the micro, they have the mini, and instead of the full HDMI, they have the AV out. And of course, they have HDMI here. It's not listed over here. But other than that, they look pretty much the same. Let's take a look at the top as well. See if we get these both on here. You can see the dimensions are pretty spot on with everything, even the cartridge port and the little section here. So it's obvious to me that the manufacturer got their hands on one of these and took as much from this as they could. And to me, it's not a bad thing. Now, if you want to make a Raspberry Pi, it's better than getting one of these very rare guys and destroying it, when you can get this very cheap and easily put a Pi in here. And there's definitely people on the retro sites that are already doing that. I wasn't really planning to do it with this one. I'll probably get a couple more and put a Pi in it at that point. But some people have done some really nice things putting a Pi in here. It's really nice and cool seeing they could do things like that with this versus destroying one of these. Now, the next thing we want to take a look at is these controllers. But the only controllers I have right now handy on my NES Classic are these, which are a really nice one. I got 2 of these for I think $12. They work really well. They're a Clone wireless controller, but they're fantastic. I got these off of eBay as well. So I don't know how else to be comparing this. I think these were even a little bit darker too than the original Classic. My original Classic controllers are all still in the box, and I don't want to really take them out right now because it's just a pain to do so. So let's just take a look now on one of these controllers here. Let's take this out and see what we got. Oh, we got some things in the bottom there. I didn't even pay attention to it. So we have obviously our power jack here, which looks like a standard 5 volt, but instead of going to a micro, it's a mini power jack here. And of course, we have our AV out. Now, the original NES only had 1 audio jack, so they're giving 2. So most likely it's just pumping mono on both these channels. And then your composite signal right there. And what would be complete without a nice photograph of people playing some Clone Classic? Now, in the back of this, they give you a list of all the games. And this is a 1080p camera. So I'm not sure if you can pause the video and see everything that's on here. But I'll try and maybe get a better shot of one later and put that on here. But again, I can tell by looking at it, they have like Turtles 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is most likely the same game, but you're starting on the different levels. And I see that going on here quite a bit. So it's not a true 500 independent games on here, but there'll be 500 total programs to look at. And then they have a little instruction manual, and the paper feels kind of nice actually. It's got a nice texture to it. And let's do a quick little check here and see what we have. So again, I cannot read Chinese in any way, shape, or form, but pictures is the way I usually do things anyway. And they're showing the controllers, how to hook everything up, which is, very, very easy to do. But again, a lot of times even the manuals they give you is like cheap garbagey paper, and this is actually not too bad. So I'm actually pretty impressed, again, for $25 for the box, all the stuff we've gotten here, and the quality of the plastic and everything. Now, I haven't turned it on yet, but everything else here seems to be really not bad. Something I definitely would spend $25 on and not feel bad that I did. So let's take one of these controllers out here. All right. Well, I could definitely tell the controller definitely feels lighter than the NES Classic. And, you know, it feels okay. Now, the wire coming out of here is definitely a very thin wire. And I've had issues with some controllers in the past where the wires would break in these suckers. And I can definitely say these are very, very flimsy wires. The controller itself, I said, and I'll say it again, I've heard people say these buttons stank. But just by feeling it, I haven't played it yet, but just by feeling it, they are a little bit on the stiff side. These are definitely on the stiff side. These feel okay. It's not bad. Again, it's not an NES controller. It's a knockoff. But I think this would probably be pretty adequate. But I do have concerns over this wire. I can tell this is going to be a very thin gauge in here. And I have no idea how well this will work over time. Again, it's probably pretty easy to get a standard 9-pin, 9-wire cable going in. But you probably have to widen that jack. So I think so far out of the whole thing, the wire here might be an issue. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but in time, I have a funny feeling this wire, something's going to break in this sucker. So that's it as far as just doing a quick unboxing. And of course, we have the, you know, the second controller in here, and it's the same flimsy wire, and that's it. So let's take a look at some of the games, and I'll throw it on my screen here in just a second, and we'll take a look. Again, I'm not going to put my NES Classic on and compare the graphics of the menus. There are so many videos out there already with that. You can easily go anywhere and look at the menu of the NES Classic and its games. I'm just going to put up the 500 Clone and just play it and show you what it's like. So just give me a moment to hook up the system. Okay, so I have it hooked up here, right up here to my TV set, going through the composite input. I'm not going through any type of upscaler at all. It's going to be going directly from the composite in on the TV set. So I'm not modifying the signal in any way, shape, or form. Now I will say, unlike the NES Classic, the wires they give are quite long. So you don't have to be as close as I am right now. I just happen to be sitting close right now. But the cable going from the back of the NES Clone to the TV set's composite input is nice and long. I would say it's probably a good 6 or 7 feet, which is pretty good. It's a nice long cable. The power cord is probably a good 4 to 5 feet, and that's pretty good. And this is, as you can see here, quite long as well. It's probably a good 3 foot, 3.5 foot cable length. So we're going to turn it on right now. But again, this cable here, when I even plugged it in, did feel kind of cheap. But again, we're talking $25 for the 2 controllers, the console, power supply, and everything. But the AV cable, the power jack cable felt fine. But the DB9 connector to this controller, the cable, definitely felt cheap. But the controller itself so far feels okay. So let's turn it on and see what we get. Again, something very reminiscent to any of the, if you ever had a Chinese NES cartridge of any kind, or one of the small little plug and plays or handhelds, there's the menu you kind of get. It's not going to be a special NES Mini menu, which is awesome. There's not going to be any save states. So it's basically you're going to be playing just as if you were playing a Nintendo back in the day. Now again, the power on is on the opposite side. It's on the right side, but it has a very bright, as you can see here, indicator light. And again, the controller is in there, feels good, but this cable I'm just not a fan of. So if I remember correctly, going down, up and down, should select one game at a time. Of course, if you put it in the right jack, I obviously have this in the wrong controller jack, so let's swap this over here to the other one. There we go. So for one player, you want to be in the right-hand side, second player be on the left-hand side. So moving the joystick down one will go down one selection, and going to right or left doesn't do it either. I know one of these buttons will do it. There we go. The B button will jump down a whole bunch, and the A button will go the opposite way. So to go through the games will take a while. Now in some of the other clones, when you went right or left, it went a whole screen. But in this one, it does not seem to do so. It just kind of scrolls faster on here. It go down the list here, see if we find anything good. I'm seeing a lot of games I do know, a lot I've never heard of before, which is not surprising. Just trying to find something here. Well, here's Q*bert. Okay. Q*bert's one of my favorite games, so I'm going to start that up. Okay, and I have played Q*bert on the NES before, and it sure looks like Q*bert to me. I'm just going to turn the volume up a little bit. Now, the volume coming out of the console into my TV set does seem a little bit low, and I've had to turn the volume up quite a bit, so I'm getting a lot of hum from my TV set. But let's actually start a game and see what it's like. Again, the start and select buttons feel okay. They're a little stiff, but not bad. Quick death. Oh man. So I'm going to say the control itself, like I said, the control didn't feel bad before it was off. It doesn't seem super responsive. You kind of like make sure you're making your press. The Q*bert also is not an easy game to navigate to begin with. So maybe it's a poor choice. I'm starting off and trying out the controls and I'm trapped and I'm going to die. So let's try going back to the main menu. Hitting the reset button here brings us back to the main menu. And let's pick another game here. Let's see what we got. And now the right and left are going. See, I don't know why it wasn't working before. Now pressing right and left does scroll down an entire screen where up and down goes individual. So let's find a game here. What are we going to pick? What are we going to pick? Oh, Burger. So, oh, there we go. Can't go wrong with Donkey Kong, because everyone knows that game. So let's start some Donkey Kong. And again, this is definitely the NES Donkey Kong. It's not a copy. If it is, it looks exactly as it should. And now we'll see how the controls work really in this game. Sound seems pretty good. The graphics seem pretty good to what I remember for the game. And in this game, in Donkey Kong, the controls don't feel bad. So again, it doesn't feel like a real NES controller, but it's adequate. It does the job. Now, when the spring is bouncing over the top, I don't know if you can hear that. The sound doesn't seem right there, so the emulation you're using might be a little bit off. But maybe I'm wrong. I haven't played the Donkey Kong on NES in a while, but I don't remember that little humming right there when the spring went over. Donkey Kong is going down. Ah, Got too cocky too quick. Whoa! Okay, let's try taking a look at another game. So hit the reset button here, take us back to our main menu, and we'll try and skip ahead. Yeah, it's working now. We saw some Mario 10, which probably means we're jumping. Let's try one. It's probably jumping ahead some levels. Nope, never seen this one before. Oh, looks like some type of Tetris clone. We're gonna skip that. I have no idea what that game's gonna be like. Well, that was burger time. Let's try some burger time. Again, we're talking $25. For the amount of games you get in here, it's probably pretty good. The controller is okay, it's not that cable. But the controllers seem to be fairly responsive. I mean, you got to make sure you're pressing them pretty good to make sure they make a good contact. I'm starting to take it back. The controller here is, I couldn't really move him too well. I'm not sure if it's the design of the controller, the rubber grommets. I'm sure I can modify and make it better. But you see, if you're not really pressing down, he'll just stop. And like right now, I'm pressing right, and he's kind of like not really going. So on this controller, for sure, I'm going to put the other controller in and see if it's a problem with this or not. So let's take this controller out and take our second controller and put that in. Yeah, I'm definitely going to say the controllers as they are pretty, at least the directional pad is pretty bad. I'm pressing down. I'm pressing down as hard as I can, and he goes and he stops, and he goes and he stops. Now I could probably open this and do a better contact. There's a lot of things you can do to fix it, but I'll definitely say when people say these controllers are crap, that's probably what they mean. The buttons were fine, the start and select were fine, but the actual directional pad is getting you killed because it's not really responding to the key presses like you would expect. But I think that's something that I could probably fix and do a tutorial on, and maybe put a little copper pad on there or even some tin foil to make a better contact come down, because it does it, then it hesitates, like the button is not keeping a good contact on it. But the games themselves seem to be pretty much the way I remember them. Even there, now the controls are not going exactly where I expect them to go. Well, I could play some Galaga. Everyone likes some Galaga, so let's try that. And it looks like Galaga. fire buttons, again, the fire buttons feel fine. Now, I'm starting to, the left and right seem to work very well here, so maybe it's a problem with the emulation in Burger Time. Because right now, the control is working very well for me here. I'll let myself get captured, if I can. Might have killed too many. Let's kill them all now. Yep. So the left and right's working fine here, so I'm starting to think maybe it's the game itself. Burger Time was just very bad with the controls. But we'll try another game in a second. Right now, again, let's see if I can find like maybe Pac-Man, which you really want to have those controls working really, really well. But it seems to be very responsible to me here now. Come on, I'm waiting for you. And I'm going to say also that slight little audio differences I'm picking up in the game. Almost like the sound on certain ships echoes itself. Again, if you never played the game before, you probably wouldn't notice. But the sound is definitely a little bit off than it would be on the real NES, or even the NES Classic. Let's see if we can find another game here that we can do. I just saw Q*bert at least twice in there, but I'm surprised I didn't see a Pac-Man on here. Usually on these clones, you always find a version of Pac-Man. And now we're back to square one. So unless I missed it, there was no copy of Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man, and I'm kind of surprised. They have Ninja Gaiden, Robocop, Adventure Island, Chippendale, Pro Wrestling, Spider-Man, Batman. So there's a lot of NES games on here. I'm just a little surprised they have Prisoner of War, Airwolf, Akari Warriors 3, and I didn't actually see Mario Brothers or actual Super Mario Brothers. There was that weird clone of Mario. So they do have 10-yard fight, but I don't see any Mario. I didn't see any Super Mario either. So I'll make sure I get a picture of the game list and put that in the video. They have Defender, Dig Dug, 2 Donkey Kongs, Galaga and Galaxian. Because if you know my channel myself, I'm much more into the older arcade classics than anything else. I do have Gorf, Ice Climber, Lode Runner. Oh, here's Mario Brothers, which is probably going to be the old arcade. So let's try that one out. And it's missing the logo, so there's also already an issue there. And it is the arcade Mario Brothers. so far in this as well, the controls seem to be fine. So it must have some issues with certain games with the emulation and how it responds to the controller, because it's working. This game is very touchy with controls, and he seems to be pretty responsive. So Merrick seems to be very responsive, like in Galaga. But in Q*bert and in Burger Time, especially Burger Time, it was horrible, the controls. Let's go back here. What do we got here? Well, everyone's probably seen Excite Bike. Let's take a look at that one. Okay, let's start the game. It would be great. There we go. Overheat. It's Excite Bike. Well, we'll try the controller and gyrus. So here we go. Well, I'm going to say the control was pretty responsive to me. That was my own fault. So it's responding here, so definitely the games themselves may not be emulated properly. So right now, I'd say overall for the $25, it's okay. I mean, if you spend $25, I don't feel bad that I did, and I have it, and I can mess around with a couple of games on here. But I definitely see the controller or the emulation of the controller being a bit of a frustration factor when you should be easy to move in a direction and your guy is not and you get killed. That is something you definitely would not have happen on a real NES with, say, an EverDrive, or if you actually do have an NES Classic, or even just running emulation on a Retro Pi. And there's a lot of games here that I would expect to see, like a Zelda, and I do not, or Super Mario Brothers, which I do not. And there's a lot of other very high-profile games that aren't here. So that could be a disappointment to a lot of people. But again, we're talking $25 for all that you get. And you do get what you pay for. And I'm just going to go through the list one more time and pick one more game before I wrap up the review here. But, oh, there we go. I knew it. Pac-Man is $135. Let's try that and see how the controls do. Yeah, the controllers I can definitely agree with people saying that the controllers suck in their current form. I do think they can be fixed, but I'm pressing up and he's going left and right. And I'm trying to get it to go up, up, up! Down! Oh my god. Alright. It's gotta be the controllers. They do suck. At least the direction pad. I'm probably gonna open this, I'll do another video and see if that can be improved. Because, you know, this is pretty much what you're gonna get with a lot of these Chinese knockoffs. It's not bad. For $25, it's not. But this sucks. I'm not gonna lie. But if you convert it to a Raspberry Pi, you just want it for the case, you're good. But this definitely takes away any fun factor you're going to have playing any of these games, this controller. Ah! Down! So what are my final thoughts on this little NES Classic Clone? Now I have to stress again, this was $25, and for $25 I really don't think it's that bad of a deal. I mean, you get a little console, you get a bunch of games. Obviously there's 500 total games, but not a 500 individual or all playable games. There's going to be a lot of real crapware on there. But there are some good ones on there that you may remember. Not the huge classics like Zelda or Super Mario Brothers, but Donkey Kong, Joust, Pac-Man, and the like. And for that it's okay. The big disappointment out of everything is actually the directional pad. Again, the console itself is not built too bad. The color's a little bit off, but it's not horrible. You do get two controllers instead of one, although the D-pads are absolutely horrendous. But the fire buttons and the start select buttons are acceptable. The cords for the controllers also are pretty flimsy, and I had questioned how long they'll survive. But the AV out quality is decent. It's not HDMI, but it's good enough for playing. And the cable lengths are all very long. The big, again, disappointment is the D-pad. I'm going to have to do a separate video on a way to correct that. But I think overall, if you can get it for $25 or less, now you can actually, believe it or not, get it without the box. It's like $5 cheaper if you get just the console loose. But I just get it with the box because you're probably going to want to store it at some point. But again, for $25 or less, I think you'd probably be pretty happy with it. And again, if you want to do a Raspberry Pi project, there's a gentleman who goes by 8-Bit Flashback on YouTube. I have a link down below. He actually has already done a really nice job on converting this into a Raspberry Pi with an actual working door and cartridges. It's pretty amazing what he's done. He doesn't have too many subscribers yet, so you might want to subscribe to his channel. He's also done a Sega Genesis mod, and I think he's going to do some really good things in the future. And also, of course, you got to check out ETAPRIME. ETAPRIME does a lot of great things with the Raspberry Pi. His videos are fantastic. I'm a big fan of his. And if you're not subscribed to ETAPRIME, again, I have a link down below. You definitely want to check out his channel as well. So again, I hope this video kind of helped you see that this clone, although is nowhere near the quality of an NES Classic, try finding one. I mean, I got lucky and I worked really hard to get them, and some of my friends did too. But again, for the price, I don't think you can go wrong. And if you definitely want to turn one into a Raspberry Pi, 3D printed one, the cases don't compare to the quality I would think of this case. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for taking the time to watch my, again, long video. And remember, everyone, have a great time and game on. Sit, Blue Blue, sit. Good dog.